here.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to the .NET MAUI Summer Coding Adventure. We are really excited to share this 4-week series. And well, what a way to kick off this event. Welcome, James. Welcome, Bruno. How are you doing?
Absolutely amazing. Honor and a privilege to be here and really excited for this whole thing that you all have set up. Really exciting.
Thank you.
Same here. I've been doing a lot of .NET lately, mostly on the backend APIs, plugins for ChatGPT and copilots, these kind of things. But I want to learn more about MAUI. I miss my desktop days, so this is for me is the perfect excuse to get back here and learn more. So super happy to be here.
Awesome. So it will be a learning experience for some of us. Well, I would like to ask people in the chat, where are you joining us from? So I hope that during this series you learn. Basically, this is the main goal, the main objective. You can share your learning experience, or how is it going for you on Twitter, on social media. We'll be really happy to hear from you. So basically, in this event, there will be 4 sessions every Monday at this time, 1 p.m. Standard EST, sorry. The first session is from mobile to desktop, building versatile apps with .NET MAUI. So it will be something like introduction, what you can do with this platform, with this technology. Then we will move to explore the UI design, which is also important because we want to create beautiful applications. So we will learn some tips, some tricks. Then we will move towards another topic, which is the MVVM, which is a pattern that helps us to reuse code and also to build applications more efficiently. And finally, we will work with local storage. So Bruno and I will be hosting this series, and there will be a guest speaker. Today we have James, and this event is in English and also in Spanish. In Spanish, we will have sessions on Wednesdays, but we will talk about that one later. So yeah, not sure what else to say.
No, I think this is great because, there's it's always good. We have seen that on, Microsoft Learn, there's really great learning paths to learn sort of anything, kind of like Bruno was talking about, building AI and doing these things. And I've been going through that stuff myself. And there's great learning paths on Microsoft Learn and beginner series. But I love these hands-on interactive and, things. It's great to see everyone in the chat from around the globe. So, I think, watching these sessions and participating in these sessions, if you're here, obviously follow along at home, but then also participate, ask questions is what's here for. So I'm excited that y'all are here. I know I'm excited that Bruno is starting his MAUI journey, which is exciting too. So real excited to see how this goes for all y'all. And I'm excited to be here as well.
Yes, exactly. And actually, the first half will be a presentation and some demos from James. And after that, we will actually build some application. We are preparing a workshop. We will share some link, GitHub repository for you. And we will go step by step to build this application. So after 4 weeks, we will have a really nice, beautiful application. I will not spoil the surprise for you. So you can stay and learn how to create these applications. Bruno, anything else you would like to say before we...
No, just thanks the people. I am not handling the comments today. Didn't get on time to do my... But
a lot of comments.
It's amazing people. And again, ask questions. If you want to learn more, if you want to focus on something, please, we are here to help. So thanks a lot for being here. And I'm super, super happy. As I said, I am going to play the new guy here role because I really want to learn.
Yes, and just one important detail that also Alexia mentioned. There is a Cloud Skills Challenge for this .NET MAUI series event. So it is always helpful to learn, let's say, from some tutorial, from some Microsoft Learn modules. I really like them because it's not only just documentation, like a lot of text, but actually it explains what you are doing. It is a step-by-step guide. So I am always talking or saying that Microsoft has the coolest documentation, and in this way, you can learn. You can also get some badges. You can even share them. So yeah, why not? It's about making learning fun. So yeah, there is a Cloud Skills Challenge. We will share the link in a minute. So please join and also share to us what you learn and what are your future expectations. So with that, I think we can give it to James. So you can present, you can tell us everything about .NET MAUI. You are one of, I think many people here know you, but for people who doesn't know you, maybe you can introduce yourself.
Absolutely. No, it's really exciting to be here. There's a few people that know me in the chat. And actually, Javier will be joining on the Spanish stream on Wednesday. And Javier's on the .NET MAUI team. It's fantastic. So yes, I'm James Montemagno. I'm a program manager lead here at Microsoft. I've been a .NET developer for nearly 20 years at this point. I think from the beginning of time that I can imagine. The first time I wrote C# code, I fell in love with it. And it's all I ever wanted to do. And I've actually been a mobile developer building iOS, Android, Mac, and Windows apps, so mobile and desktop, with .NET and Xamarin, which was the product before .NET MAUI, for nearly 13 years. So I've been building and shipping applications across all of these platforms for as long as I can imagine, and I love it. I worked at Xamarin before they were acquired by Microsoft, and my team helps people around the globe be successful using and adapting our products, right? So to me, what I love is going and teaching people, showing people what I learn and what I know, and helping them be successful with the product. So to me, it's what I love in general. And I think what's great about .NET MAUI as a multi-platform app UI is that you get to pick and choose. Do you want to build just for iOS, just for Android, for Windows, for Mac, for all of them, just for mobile, just for desktop? It gives you that flexibility to be able to go and build those applications all with a single unified platform. So what I want to do is kind of give a base level of what .NET MAUI is before y'all jump a little bit later in code and actually walk around the IDE just a little bit and go from there. So I'm just going to jump into it if that's cool with you two. Cool. See, Ned's head's nodding. I love it. Cool. So if people are brand new to .NET is Microsoft's development platform that gives you a unified base to build for any single operating system and different pieces of technology, right? So if you're building mobile apps, desktop apps, web applications, IoT, AI, games, cloud, .NET powers pretty much everything that you can think of that's out there, from little tiny devices to full games, the Unity engine that people build games in for like Xbox and PlayStation and Switch and all these amazing things. And of course, building and deploying applications for Windows, which you would expect, but also being able to build native applications for Mac and for iOS and Android and iPad. And you can develop across all the different operating systems too, whether you're using Visual Studio or VS Code, or if you're on Windows, Mac, or Linux, you can develop there. And there's a huge ecosystem out there of components. Now, for me, like I said, I am a client developer, which means I can build websites with .NET, but I prefer to live and breathe on the desktop and on my mobile devices. And these devices to me are things that I have all around me. I have my iOS, I have a MacBook Air, I have my Surface Laptop 4 here, I have an iOS device, I have my Android devices, I have iPads and Android tablets, I have all these things around me. And these are the devices that I love. Now, normally you think like, well, if I want to build for non-Microsoft platforms, I need to go learn different languages, to learn different technologies. But as I just said, .NET runs everywhere. There's native runtimes for .NET that enable you to build for the different platforms, and great tooling in Visual Studio that enables you to do that. And the team said, well, how about we take it a step further and give developers a productive way of building cross-platform UI across these different operating systems. So while you can go and build an iOS, an Android, a Mac app, and a Windows app with the native UI stacks, you have a single unified platform that you can build applications from a single code base, which is great. So you have all of them all in one available. And what's cool is that you get that single code base, you're able to deploy to as little or as many as you want, and it's 100% unified. You get productive and development environments with Visual Studio and VS Code. You have access to the native APIs for iOS, Android, Mac, and Windows in C#. So if you want to access, like Siri Kit, or you want to access like different Android Bluetooth functionality, you have access to that. There's tons of packed-in UI controls. There's accessibility features by default enabled. And you also have an abstraction over common APIs of platform services, which y'all are going to learn about in this journey. So things like connectivity and accessing sensors on the devices, you have access to that too, which is really, really cool. And what's also really cool is that .NET and .NET MAUI give you flexibility. I talked about web development, and one of our most popular frameworks for building full stack web apps is Blazor, which enables you to write everything in C#. So you don't have to like use JavaScript, and you can create websites and progressive web apps and full apps that run directly in the browser. So that gives you like full reach. You also have .NET MAUI, which are these native UI components and native controls and native APIs, native desktop and mobile clients, which is really great. But there's a lot of developers that are web developers today that want to still access that native bits and build iOS and Android and Mac and Windows apps. Well, .NET MAUI also provides hybrid support too. So it actually gives you the best in class based on what you want to do and what type of developer you're going to be today, which is really cool. And I'll walk through what this looks like as well. So this is what this looks like, right? You have this big shared code base. So we're talking about your models, your view models, your RESTful service calls, your databases, your backend integrations. All of that is shared 100% across the different operating systems. You share all your UI, you share your resources like your images, your fonts, your string translations. You access platform features, cross-platform and shared code. And then you can compile up native applications for each operating system. And you still have access right there in those C# layers to C# APIs. So if you want to access those native capabilities, you have access to them as well. So this is what a .NET MAUI project looks like and what the applications that you get up and running look like. Out of the box, the applications are fully themed for light theme and dark theme support across the different operating systems. On the left-hand side, you can see on the very top, I'm deploying to Android, iOS, Mac, and Windows. There's a platform folder right there that you can see the different operating systems there where I can write native code. And then under resources, the .NET MAUI team took cross-platform even further because they said, what are things that .NET MAUI developers would love building across the different operating systems? Well, you just drop in some icons in there and a splash screen icon, and it does it all for you automatically. Drop in fonts, it'll register for you automatically so you can use icon fonts or special fonts in your app. You can drop in different SVGs or PNGs into an images folder, and it'll automatically resize the images for you, which is really cool. And then you just build all of your application logic inside of XAML or C# to be super productive. So let me show you what that looks like really quick here. So when you go into Visual Studio, I'm just going to open a new Visual Studio here. All right. And I'm just going to say new project. So when you go into new project in Visual Studio, you could be in the Mac or you could be inside of VS Code as well. There's going to be all these templates. And here I have MAUI selected. And there are 3 templates specifically. So MAUI app, Blazor app, which is that hybrid app, and then a MAUI class library. So if I create the new MAUI app, it's going to enable me to build out that project really, really easily. So I've gone ahead and just to save a few seconds, have done that ahead of time. And here's what that project looks like. It's the same exact project that we saw in that slide a second ago. And if I expand and open up this main page of the application, what we're going to see is the main content of our application, or in this case, the controls that I want to be rendered on the screen. And these are rendering native controls based on if it's on iOS, Android, Mac, or Windows. So we can see that I have this scroll view, so it'll automatically scroll up and down. I have a vertical stack layout, so it's going to stack these items vertically. And then I have an image in here. I have some labels, and I have a button here. And this button has a name, so it's called counter button. It has some text called click me. It even has this semantic property, which gives it accessibility features for screen readers. And it has this little click to count vent right here that when it gets clicked in the code behind, it will automatically call this method that will increase this count and update the label on the button itself. And if I'm using a screen reader, it will read back that to me automatically, which is really, really nice. Now, if I go back into this main page, I can also see that I have toolbox over here. So if I don't know what's in .NET MAUI, like I don't know the controls yet, I'm just learning for the first time, I can come in and I can drag and drop, an entry over here. Just let me just drag it in here, and that's going to automatically place it inside the XAML for me. And XAML is like an XML-based markup, so it's sort of similar to HTML. And these are representing what .NET MAUI will display when it runs the application. Now, it knows to start up the application because there's this main program. So if you've ever done any web development with ASP.NET Core, for example, this is going to look similar. This loads up the application, it registers the app, registers my fonts, and then it builds it up and it starts up the application. Now up here, I can go into the dropdown and I can say, what do I want to deploy on? Android emulators, iOS devices, Windows machine. I can switch the targets. And if I go to Windows, which is nice because I'm on a Windows machine, this is going to compile up the application for Windows and deploy it locally right here, which is really great. So this will boot it up. Here we go. It's loading and it's going into debug mode. So I could add breakpoints in it as well. Here we go. It's loading on my other screen, but there we go. I'm just going to pull it over here, minimize it down. There we go. Boop. Perfect. There we go. So here this says hello VS Live because I was just at a conference called VS Live. But if I go over to that main page over here, we can see that that's where it says hello VS Live. And we can see this little live preview here. This is pretty interesting. Let me go ahead and make it fit the width here. So we can actually see the running application right here. That's pretty cool. And if I adjust it, so this is the running app, I can make it a little bit smaller and then maybe just fit height. Perfect. That looks really good. Maybe I'll make it a little bit bigger so we can see the button in there. Perfect. And this is nice when you're on a single screen, you get everything inside the IDE, or IDE is a development environment like a Visual Studio. And here I could say, hello.NET MAUI Summer of Coding. And there. And just like that, the application updates in real time here. And if I change the font size, for example, to let's say 24, it's going to change that font automatically. And we see it in the running application. It's updated with hot reload, which is really, really cool. I can also change the code behind. So for example, here, when I click on this and notice that it's incrementing by 1, well, if I take a look at that code behind back here, if I want to change this to, let's say 10, I'll just say plus equals 10. I can actually hit this little hot reload button up here. See this little button way up here? Let me zoom in. If it zooms in, let me see if it does it. Let's see. There's this little hot reload icon up here. I can hit that little button and that's going to hot reload my code. And now when I increment it, look, it's incrementing by 10 every single time. So now we're going up by 10 over and over and over again. So I'm easily able to modify my code, add new controls into it, which is really neat. Now, this application runs on all the different platforms. So if I want to, I'm going to say, let me run this on Android. And now I can see that I have the ability to run this on Android emulators like this one right here. So I'm just going to go ahead and hit debug here. And what this now is going to do, just like it did on Windows, it's going to compile up my Android application. And I could take an Android device and plug it into my Windows machine or my Mac machine, and it would show up in Visual Studio. But additionally, we have Android emulators. So this is an Android emulator running right here. So this is live, so we can see it running. And now what it's going to do is it's going to take it, it's going to compile up the application into that Android packaging system that is required to run Android applications over there. Now, this takes a little bit of time because it's kind of bundling up the entire application to get running and going through that packaging system. So I always like to deploy to Mac or to Windows first because it's fast, right? It's just there. There's nothing in between. Basically, it's just running on your machine. But we can go ahead and run the application. We can kind of see the same application running here while it compiles up. Basically, I deployed it a little bit earlier, but we can see the same application, same thing running and kind of coming through this application, which is cool. And now it's actually going to start to deploy. So here we go, finalizing here. There we go. Cool. And this is nice because it does go through that native compilation, which means that this is the same packaging system that you would create if you were in Android Studio, for example, and it would go ahead and deploy this to Google Play or to maybe the Amazon App Store, for example, and you can actually run your apps inside of there. So, okay, cool. Actually, our application is rebooting here because I went into debug mode, and there's our new label because it took those changes and compiled them up, obviously. And as we can see, we also have the live preview here. So this is really neat. We get the same exact stuff. I can hover over the elements inside of here, and I can tap on one. So I could tap on it. It'll bring me into the XAML, which is cool. I can say hello from Android, right? And I get the same type of experience in real time, which is cool. And just like I could do on Windows, I can actually add breakpoints. And now when I go into my app and I click it, I have full debug capabilities, right? I'm debugging my application. I can see the count is 0. I have all of my different properties, such as my watch windows here. So if I wanted to add count into here, I could see that the count is 0 down at the bottom, and I could do that too, right? So I have that capability, and I can do the hot reload and everything like that, which is really, really neat. So you get all of that functionality directly inside of Visual Studio, which I think is really, really cool. Now, if you want to do Mac development, you do need to be on a Mac. So a lot of people are asking about Visual Studio for Mac, project templates. They're all there. It's all the same, exactly the same. If you're doing Windows development, Claudio, like you'll do that on Windows. If you're doing Mac development, you'll do that on Mac with Visual Studio for Mac. But one thing that's really cool is a lot of developers are getting started. Maybe they don't have a Mac, but they want to do iOS development, right? And I don't actually have my Mac with me. It's downstairs somewhere. I don't know where it's at. And what's cool is that I could go and grab that Mac. I could open the same exact project. I could synchronize it with GitHub, but I might want to kind of see if I could get it onto a device, right? And actually run it. So like I could install and plug in my Android device into my Windows machine. You also have the capability, if you've registered for the Apple developer account, to actually take your iOS device. So I actually have an iPhone here and plug it into your Windows machine. So I'm just going to unlock this here. So here's my iOS device here. And what I'm going to do is say I want to deploy this to iOS. And when I plug it in inside of here, let me go and let me see, plug it in again. Let's see, it should update here. I should see my work phone in this drop down. And this is really cool. This is a functionality that's going to let me come in and hit debug. So I've plugged my iPhone in. I've added my Apple account into Visual Studio. So I've done a little bit of work ahead of time. But what this is going to enable me to do is take my source code, package it up, and put it into an app bundle that will be deployed onto my iOS device. Okay, so I'm going to hit launch here. It's telling me to launch it onto my device. And we can see it's actually launching here, which is cool. This is like mind blowing. No Mac in between, just going and sitting here and doing this. It's going to boot it up, which is really neat. It's initializing hot restart. There we go. And hot reload's going to initialize. And the debugger's going to kick in. And we get the same live preview inside of Visual Studio. Amazing. Like so cool, that productivity, being able to come in, run my application. I just did it on Windows. I did it on Android. I did it on my iOS device, all immediately there as well, which is cool. So that is really, really neat. Now, from all of this, you're then able to start building applications right inside of here. And if you want to go further, like I said, there's these resources here. So I could add more images or fonts or raw assets or splash styles in there as well. So being able to do all of that is really, really neat. Now, one thing I want to point out too is accessing native capabilities inside of this application. So inside of this, I could type Microsoft.MAUI. And there's going to be things such as application model. And here we can see things like app actions, app information, app theme, launching the browser, for example, communication. So if I wanted to access contacts or send an email or send an SMS or access the phone dialer, I have access to that there. And we can see Copilots telling me to enter some stuff in here, which is neat. These are all abstracted APIs. So if I wanted to do data transfer and access the clipboard, for example, or share some text out, I could have access to that right away. Now, this is neat because if I go into the platform folders, like here's this Android setup code for the application, I have access to the Android namespaces in here, but a lot of these APIs have been abstracted out for me. So let's say I want to check the internet connectivity, right? I'll say if, and all I got to do is say connectivity dot, and here I can say network access. And if the network access equals internet, then I have internet, right? Or here, I'll just say does not equal. That way, if we don't have internet, then we don't have internet, right? So I don't want to increase anything, right? I just want to say you don't have internet, you can't do anything, and we'll move this below here. Maybe I'm making a web call, for example, which is neat. So here, all I got to do is say, display alert, maybe an alert, and I will say no internet, and I'll say, there we go, type that in and do that. I'm going to make this await, there we go, and make this async, just like that. So this will be a native dialog that pops up onto my machine. So I'm going to go in and I'm just going to deploy this on Windows, for example. Oh, actually, let me do it on Android, or else I won't be able to disconnect my Windows machine from the internet, because then I would stop presenting, and that'd be no good for anybody. That is for sure. So Android emulators are nice because they are an emulator, right? So they actually are emulating an environment. They're sort of a standalone type of system, which is good there. So here we go. Okay, I'm just going to click on this, and we can see that I have internet, for example, which is nice. I'm clicking on that. Now I'm going to put this into airplane mode. There we go. And now I'm going to click on it, and we can see no internet, and it says no internet, no internet. So I really have no internet, but I'm getting this native dialog box come up, right? And now when I go ahead and toggle the internet back on off of airplane mode, that one call there is going off, and it's accessing that automatically for me, which is really, really cool. Awesome. So there we go. Just kind of a quick walkthrough of accessing some APIs, building out some applications, and deploying. Cool. Now, there are tons of controls in .NET MAUI built in, so you have access to tons. There's a huge ecosystem of component vendors as well out there building charts and graphs, and amazing community members out there as well. There's tons of support for multi-window applications for desktop, for example, and all of those iOS APIs and all those Android APIs are built in and are cross-platform too. So I showed that off. The last bit here I want to talk about is hybrid development. If you're a web developer, drop like, hey, I love web development in the chat. Let me know, because some of the XAML might look new to you. It might look a little bit closer to a Razor syntax or HTML, but you might be saying, well, how do I build applications too? Do I have to learn all of XAML, all of .NET MAUI? What can I do? Well, like I said, Blazor is our full stack web framework for building apps with .NET that run on the server or in the browser. And with Blazor, you can build for the web, but with .NET MAUI, you can build for the client, right? But you can actually combine these worlds together with a technology called Blazor Hybrid that lets you run Blazor natively inside of .NET MAUI applications. You can mix and match UI across these different operating systems, which is cool. You can have a little bit of web and a little bit of native really easily. That means you can reuse web skills if you are a web developer, mix and match native UI, and access all those native things that I just talked about a few seconds ago. So this means now you add all of the different components in there. So you get iOS, Android, you get Mac, Windows, and web, and also progressive web apps. So you can build and deploy basically anywhere progressive web apps go and reuse all of that logic. So here, for example, I went in and I built a brand new app, and I just created the .NET MAUI Blazor Hybrid app. And this application looks very similar. We have dependencies like Android, iOS, Mac, and Windows. We have platform code here. We have resources like I showed you. But the difference is when I open that main page, we can see that we have one control, this Blazor web view inside of here. And this is telling it to go and start up my main page, which will load these Razor files, which are HTML and C# combined. So here we have a little hello world. We have a counter here that has a few buttons on the screen that increments the count. Also one that checks the internet, and also one that goes off and does a little weather forecast, displays a little table here. So if I go ahead and deploy this application, what this is going to do is bundle up my MAUI application, but have this .NET MAUI control that is the Blazor web view displaying web content inside of my native application. So here we actually get that live preview, which is cool. I'm going to bring it over. There we go. And this is a Blazor application running inside of .NET MAUI, which is really cool. So we still get this here. If I go ahead and redo this, the CSS is going to update. So this is what it would look like on an Android or iOS device, which is cool. But notice here that when I click this, this is going to increment that count. But also notice that I have another button that checks the internet. and I can add a breakpoint here, just like I would before. I'm going to click on that. And notice, look at this. Look at this. This is really cool. I'm using the same code that I showed you in the native app in this hybrid app because I can check to see if I have internet. And sure enough, I do, because I'm presenting to all of you here. And this will go ahead and pop up a dialog box natively there, which is really neat to go ahead and build it right there. So being able to blend those worlds together is really powerful if you're coming from a full native side or from a side that you want to do blended web development. So if you haven't done and gotten started yet, check it out, .net/MAUI, and install Visual Studio over there. I know there's a lot of questions in the chat. I did a quick 20-minute drive-by, boom, inside of it. But I wanted to show off some of that cool capability inside there and then answer some questions before y'all hop into doing a bunch of stuff there, which is cool. Yeah.
Wow, this is amazing. I want to ask Bruno and also the audience, how many times did your head explode with all this amazing content? Because a lot of things, no Mac for testing in your device, everything on Visual Studio, working with Blazor and also mobile to get the best of both worlds. It's amazing, this technology. What do you think, Bruno?
It's great. I mean, I need to study for my Canadian citizenship now, and I don't think I'm going to study for my Canadian citizenship now. I'm going to switch to learn this cool stuff because, hey, it's super, super cool. I mean, I really love how you have a single code base to do these kind of things. There were also a couple of very nice questions in the chat, and I will go for the last one, which is basically someone asking for a little clarification around what is Blazor versus MAUI. Because I think I know the answer. I know that this was super fast. If you can give a little more context there, I think it will be great, because also Blazor is amazing.
Yeah, for sure. And I'll stick around afterwards because I know y'all are going to go off, and I'll answer people's questions in the chat afterwards too. Yeah, so think about it like this. So Blazor is our web framework. So if you've built applications or know about things like React or Angular or Vue, those are web frameworks, right? And you use HTML and JavaScript to build applications with those web frameworks. Blazor is part of our web stack for .NET, and our web stack is called ASP.NET Core. This is what it's always been called, and Blazor is a part on that. That gives you a web framework to build very rich web applications. But instead of having to write JavaScript, you just write C#, and the C# just runs natively either on the server or in the web browser or inside of a .NET MAUI application. So what you saw there in the first demo when I was building with XAML and I was building those things up, those are going to render native UI controls inside of the MAUI application. So whatever the native UI on an iOS or Android or Windows or Mac machine are, that's what's going to render. In the Blazor web view, that's web technology. So you saw that there's a web browser inside of there, and there would be the same application that would run in the web, but inside of a .NET MAUI application. So what I wanted to show is the flexibility. Is some people are really feel very comfortable building web applications and understand CSS and JavaScript and the Blazor frameworks and Razor controls. They want to take that sort of knowledge and apply it to mobile and desktop, and you can do that with .NET MAUI. While other developers come in and say, no, I want 100% native. This is me, basically. And I want the native UI and the native controls and the native things. I'm not a web developer. Let me build natively. And MAUI can do both. So it's flexible, which is really nice.
Okay, it's really cool. Just one more question that I think it is important to mention. From the Escabetse, it says, no matching between is great. Can you still have no matching between and have the app be in the Apple Store?
Yeah, great question. So what I showed today was a technology called iOS Hot Restart. If you Bing that right now or Google it right now, you'll find documentation, iOS Hot Restart. And that's a way of debugging to a device locally. Now, it's only for development purposes. It's actually taking your app code and putting it into a predefined bundle, and your source code is interpreted. So what that means is that's not a final bundle that you can ship to the App Store. It's only for development purposes. So when you go and you actually want to build up your app, you can obviously do that on a Mac, or which I recommend if you're doing iOS and Mac development, because you really want to test out the different scenarios and you want to be pretty productive there. But if you don't have one, you can't get one. Well, okay, well, you can use iOS hot restart to deploy, and then you can use continuous integration and delivery, right? So GitHub Actions is what I would recommend, or Azure DevOps is the go-to to do the building and deployment there. I know we had some questions about App Center, and I think you can do it, but I would just look at GitHub Actions or Azure DevOps as sort of the standard where folks are going, including myself. And we have great documentation on that. And what's great about those services is they have Macs, right? Now you have to get profiles and provisioning stuff. So there's some documentation on that, but that will get you a lot farther there. And if you can't get a Mac, there is a service, not by Microsoft. It's a third-party service called Mac in Cloud. And think of it as like the renting a Mac somewhere in the cloud, basically, that you can log into, like a VM, but it's a real Mac as well. So a lot of developers use that too. But good question.
Yes, thank you very much. Okay, so thank you, James, for this amazing introduction presentation to .NET MAUI capabilities.
Absolutely. And I'll answer a few questions in the chat as well while y'all take over from here. But thanks for having me, and I'm excited to watch the entire series.
Okay, awesome. It will be really, really great. All right.
Awesome.
So thank you. Yes. So now we are going to share with you a link about a GitHub repository that we will work with during the second half of this session. I will share it in the internal chat. So now you will be able. Okay, just a second, because I forgot to present my screen. Now it is there. So, okay, so the goal here is to create one application. In this case, it's about refreshing recipes because, well, at least for half of the work, it is summer. So, you know, you like to drink a cold, refreshing beverage sometimes. So why not to create an application, let's say, about it, so you can share some recipes with friends, or how to make some really nice beverage. So the idea here is that with the introduction from James, from our guest speaker today, let's at least create one application from scratch, show some nice content, and then on next sessions we will let's say add more details to it. We will add some UI design, we will add some data, we will also store it in the application, and we will also use some architecture. So what do you think, Bruno? Shall we start?
Let's go for it. Yes, I have here the repo clone. I am ready.
Yes, awesome. Good. So here you have the instructions. So if you can also download it, it would be nice, because we are going to use some pictures from it, from this resources file. So let's go to part one. The other parts have not been built yet, but maybe a couple of days you will have part two for our next week. And here you will see, okay, this is the steps that we are following. For every step, we have some picture. Also, feedback, comments are appreciated. So if you have any recommendations, yeah, we would appreciate it. Okay, so the first part is to open Visual Studio. So here I'm going to switch over here. And let's click on Create a New Project. Then we are going to search for the .NET MAUI template. It will be easy if you just type MAUI, and you will see that there are 3 templates. .NET MAUI application, .NET MAUI Blazor application, which is the one that James showed about Blazor Hybrid, and also the .NET MAUI class library. But in our case, we want something that we can see or also have running in our application, so we choose this one, .NET MAUI application. By the way, you need Visual Studio 2022, and there is also a .NET Target, but I will explain in a minute. Then here we will have a project name. If I remember correctly, the project name is Refreshing Recipes, but give me a second. Okay, so I will just going to copy. And one recommendation, if you are working on Windows, is to use a short path because there is some issue with the length of a path, 255 characters. After that, especially for some Android libraries, the name, the path can be really long, and you will get some error that some file was not found. It is not that it doesn't exist, but because of the length of the path, it is not possible to actually find it. So my personal recommendation, and we have seen this since Xamarin, is to use a short path. So for example, I don't know, you can create on your root hard drive, maybe some folder, I don't know, let's call it Summer Coding, SC. And then here, right? And we are going to create our application here. Then we proceed to select the framework. We can work with .NET 6 if you have it installed, or .NET 7. And of course, in a few months, in November, we will have .NET 8 shipped, so we will get a new option here. In this case, I'm going to choose the latest one, which is version number 7. But if you work with version 6, don't worry, the application will also work for you. Then we hit on create, and just as easy as that, we have a template. We have this single application that James mentioned. I will bring the magnifier here so you can observe all the elements, right, that we have in this application, right? Here on platforms, we have Android, iOS, the different operating system, mobile and desktop that we can target with these applications. Okay, so let's continue with our tutorial, with our workshop. And now we are going to create a new view, also to, let's say, organize ourselves in our application. We are going to group several let's say classes or files into folders. In this case, we are going to add a new folder with the name views. They will represent the pages or UI from our application. So basically here on the project name, let's right click on it, click add, and choose new folder. Then we add the name views. Of course, this is just some recommendation, but later when we explore the MVVM pattern, it will make more sense. Now, right-click on the folder and let's add a new item. By the way, of course, if you have any question, please let me know. And also this presentation is being recorded, so you will later can pause the video and so on. So we have different categories. Choose the on the left side .NET MAUI and look for content page SAML. In this case, when we create or when we add a view, we have two possibilities. We can just create a C# class. So that means that all the controls, all the buttons, everything that will be displayed on the screen will be created with C# code only. However, maybe you have heard about SAML. If you have worked with WPF, with Windows 8 applications, UWP, and others. So yeah, in this case, every view will have, let's say, two files, a XAML file and a XAML C# file, or basically C# file, where you can add, I don't know, code behind, logic, whatever you want. Actually, we are going to do that. All right, so let's choose the XAML, and we are going to name this page. Okay, just let me remember the name because I forgot. Okay, the name is Recipe List View. Okay, recipe list view, it will automatically add the SAML extensions and then click on add. And you will observe that we actually get these two files that I mentioned to you. On the left, you will observe that there is SAML code. In this case, this is, or you can observe that it's like HTML, right, or XML, because yeah, XAML it's also markup language. So yeah, quite similar with these tags. Okay, so the idea is that we are going to display a picture, some text, and also some button for some very basic functionality. So for now, we are going to add a static, let's say, image. Later, we can obtain this data from some web service or from some database through a web API. So in this case, let's say we want to display this picture. So if you download either the whole project or the local image, we can add it to a very specific folder in our project. James mentioned that we have the resources folder, and here every, let's say, folder works with very specific type of files. The application icon, your true type fonts, custom, for example, and then we have images. One difference between .NET MAUI and Xamarin is that in Xamarin, you have to add your, let's say, image and the different resolutions on every platform. So on Android, there is a folder for the resources, and then you have HDPI, XHDPI. Then on the iOS project, you also have a specific resources folder, and similarly for the Windows application. In this case, you only have one project in your whole solution. So you can just place the image here, and .NET MAUI, let's say internally, when it packages your application, will automatically add this picture to the respective, let's say, bundle or resources folder when your application is running. So you will, let's say, get it without any issue. And now it's simpler, let's say. So I'm going to right-click here on the images folder. Again, this images folder, you can find it inside resources one. So add, in this case, existing item. And we will get this, okay, yeah, this pop-up. Here you select either all files or just image files. Let's say image files. And let's look for the picture itself. Okay, so the second, I will bring it from some older folder where I already have it. Okay, yeah, so this smoothie. After the session, you can order your own smoothie. Good. All right, so you can observe that one. Now we have this image, and we can now use it in our application. So the next part is to add XAML code, okay? So, okay, because we only have like 10 minutes or something, we are basically just copying this code, but of course I will explain. Here we have, okay, Bruno, well, first of all, what do you think this code shows? There are 4 elements: vertical stack layout, image, label, button. What do you think we have here?
I have a very little knowledge of HTML. So this is a stack, and we have an image and label and a button. It's super descriptive. So, hey, I mean.
Yes. And what do you think is the stack? What do you think it can help us to do?
Stacking a list of elements, basically in vertical mode.
Exactly. Perfect. Exactly. It's perfectly descriptive. As you said, there is also, as you can imagine, horizontal stack layout if you want your items from left to the right. But in this case, we want, yes, from top to bottom. And then the properties are also very intuitive. We have the size, we have the file that we want to display. This aspect field means that we will keep the ratio. You know, this picture, okay, it has some width and height. So we will keep the ratio, but using all the specified, let's say, size, because there are other options. Fill, for example, but maybe the image looks a bit weird. You know, when you resize some pictures, sometimes you increase the width, but not the height, so it looks a bit weird, right? Then we have some text, a specific text with a medium size, centered, and also a button. But please notice that this button only has text, size, and some identifier. It does not have any event associated or event handler associated yet, because we are going to add that from the C# code. We can, of course, do it directly here. Maybe if you have worked with WPF, desktop applications, and others, you can just double click and it automatically creates a handler for you in the C# code, but we are going to, let's say, learn how to do it from C#. So as I said, I'm going to grab this code. So I copy, and then just a second, let me get rid of the magnifier, and I will increase size here. Okay, so I'm going to delete the vertical stack layout that we get in our recipe list view page that we created, right? So we keep only the content page, and I paste this code, right? By the way, this spacing 10 means that there is a spacing, there is a separation of 10 units between every element inside the vertical stack layout. Otherwise, everything will be, let's say, like very close, very tight. Okay, so now we have our, let's say, our view. And as I said, we would like to also have some functionality. So we are going to add C# code. And I'm going to bring or copy this code. As you can observe, we have share button. This is the identifier of the button that we added into the SAML. Then we have the click event, and we are creating an anonymous, let's say, function or delegate. And these are just the arguments, the sender, the args. And this is what will be, let's say, performed when we click on the button. In this case, share is also part of the, let's say, cross-platform functionalities that .NET MAUI supports. Share, you have seen that in different applications, for example, Facebook, WhatsApp, you can share content actually to other applications, like, or even you are browsing some files on your device, and there is a share option, share to Facebook, share to WhatsApp. So, and this is, let's say, some, let's say, device dependent element or OS dependent element. It means that once we click on it, we will see the let's say, some share pop up, and we can, in this case, just bring this text, some title, and that's it. But there are other options to share, like a link or even a picture or a file, actually a file. So for now, let's keep it simple. So, okay, I copy this code, and where we are going to paste it. So you remember there is SAML and there is also C#, right? So let's double click on the C# file, and we are going to declare or add this definition inside our constructor. We have here the recipe list view, which is the name of this class or file, and we are going to paste it after the initialize component. This initialize component method, let's say, is in charge of creating all the UI elements that we added to the SAML. So it actually creates the instances of the button, the label, the image, and so on. And after they are created, we now have access to this share button. It is important that we add this code after this method is called. And actually, that's it. That's all we are going to do. Oh, yeah, I forgot. Because we created a view and we want this one to be displayed at the beginning, there is an app shell. This app shell is some kind of a menu that we will have in our application. So let's actually bring this recipe list view. How we are going to do it? First of all, we need a namespace. So I'm going just to copy this line. This is the line that you need. We add views. This is just some alias, but this is the reference to the views, let's say, namespace. And of course, refreshing recipes is the project name. After that, we can replace, instead of local main page, we want to display views, recipe list view. This is the page that we created. And that's it. Now I can run it on Windows, on Android, on iOS. I will choose Windows, right? And let's wait maybe 1 minute. It is building and we will see our application. So what do you think, Bruno? Was it easy? Was it complicated? Make sense?
No, super easy. I mean, I literally create a simple page with a text box, a label, and a button. Ask a question in the text box, go research a web service, displays the response in the label. And hey, it's bringing back memories to my Windows dev days, and it's easy. I want to test the platform now. I want to deploy it to a couple of devices. But hey, you have it there, up and running, working.
Yes, it is there.
Cool.
It is there. We have it. Image, text, this share button. So let's click on it. And you can observe this is, of course, a Windows. This is desktop. And we can share it. Okay, this is some application from this Asus computer. Share to OneNote, share to email. I will click, for example, email. And yeah, I already have my email account set up. And you can observe this title and also the description, because that's the thing that we included here, right? Text and title. So yeah, you can very simple, like share some email to your friends, sharing this information. And of course, in mobile, in Android, you can share it to SMS, to another contact, WhatsApp, any other application, because it uses, let's say, the native or the native share functionality. This is for Windows, but for Android there is another one. For iOS, it's and everything is kind of let's say simplified. All you need is to call this share from the .NET MAUI namespace, and the OS will handle it for you. No need to build something really specific.
Awesome.
So,
awesome.
yeah,
yes, we are already on time. I want to be sensitive with the people's
no, it's
time.
okay.
So next week, what we are going to see?
Okay, yeah. Before next week, actually, on Wednesday, we have, let's say, the same content, but in Spanish.
Yes.
So, and Javier will join us, right? And next week, we have UI design. So now we want to polish, we want to do it better. So we will add some, or we will get some tips on how to make our applications beautiful and stand out from others. So yeah, this is what we are going to explore. Yeah, for Android, it takes a bit more time to build, but I didn't have to change anything in the code, and it will run. So thank you, everyone, for joining today in this event. Thank you, Bruno.
Yes, so thanks, everyone. We are working on the Cloud Skill Challenge. We are working to fix it. Something happened there, so sorry about that. And thanks for the people who raised the hand and let us know. We really appreciate your feedback. And hey, feedback. If you want to let us know what else do you want to learn, what do you think about this session, the future ones, you have the link there, you have the event code. Please let us know what you think. And see you next Monday to learn to do more beautiful things, which I really need to learn. On Wednesday to do the same in Espanol, in Spanish, with Javi and other amazing people. Thanks a lot, everyone.
Yes.
Goodbye.
Thank you. Have a good one.